Hello! Today I'm sharing my 2021 bullet journal setup and the spreads that I redo every year. Plus, I have my January spreads afterwards. I tend to keep my bullet journal easy and very simple, so it doesn't take up too much time to do, and I'm not necessarily one to doodle and be artistic in my bullet journal, though I'm sure you could add doodles and stuff in these spreads, but either way. This first page is where I keep my key and a little note of the grid numbers. So I'll count the vertical and horizontal squares and put them on this little flag sticky note that I have so I can easily reference them, cut them in half for designs and spreads, stuff like that. I don't need a full elaborate grid spacing guide because I don't tend to do elaborate things in my spreads, and honestly I do a lot by eye anyway. But yeah, I have that at the top, and then I have my key split up into two sticky notes, one with the actual bullet points and the others how I count them as done or canceled. And honestly, the sticky note thing is just out of habit and aesthetics by now, but at the beginning I put my key on a sticky note so that I can move it around when I wanted to, so I could change it and really experiment and see which key style works best for me. This next page, we have me doing some math. This is the most complicated spread in any of my bullet journals, and it's the year at a glance. So I write out each of the months, and then with 8 or so lines underneath it, I split it only up into the 2 pages. I see a lot of videos where they do this and have it more divided, so they'll take up 4 pages, but I have my system set up where this spread is only for holidays and birthdays, and I have another spread that's a lot easier to set up for everything else. This is a tedious page, and there are other ways of doing it if writing out the months is just not something you want to do. You could get stamps, you could use your phone calendar and have all the dates there that I use, or you could just merge these dates into the next spread. I tend to pack my next spread pretty full, so that's why I don't do that. It's entirely up to you. I do think this is a staple page though. I reference it all throughout the new year, especially when I'm setting up my months, which you'll see later in this video. But anyways, I start actually doing the spread after I figure out the math by writing out the weekdays at the top. And that way I can make sure that I get my horizontal spacing correct, because I'm far more likely to mess that up. It's not just splitting the page in half, it's splitting it into 3, and sometimes that looks weird and all of that. I actually did kind of not do it perfectly, but again, I'm not here for perfect. I'm here to get it set up and just have it as a reference page. You'll see me have this paper that I put under my hand, and that is purely because I did not realize that this Sharpie pen that I'm using will bleed if you have your hand on it, and I am a lefty. That is my kryptonite, so you'll see that paper pretty frequently. And I'm not going to waste your time setting up each of the months. I do write the first through like the last of that day, and then the last day of the month, and then just go from there. I do believe halfway through I just gave up and was trusting that I wouldn't skip a number, but like I said, I'm not going to force you to watch all of that. Here are the months. And then after that, I just write a line to separate the month from just the days that I'm gonna write. And I fill it up with my dates that I find important. Like I said, this spread I tend to keep just for holidays and birthdays. I do put an asterisk by dates that change. So Thanksgiving is not the 28th every year, it's the last Thursday. So I will put an asterisk by that, so when I'm setting up my next journal, I will remember to double check the date. So this next spread has the bulk of my future logging, I guess you could say, that's what I call it. It's an Alastair method, I believe is what it's called, and I'll try to link the video explaining what it is in more depth and basically where I learned what it was. So I split up the months into 2, so I have January through June on the left page and July through December on the second page. Just X off the month and write the date and the event in the square, in the space, and that's it. I have a sticky note at the bottom for things that I don't have a set date for, but I want to keep them in mind when I get to a certain month. So, like I said, I refer to this page every time I set up my monthlies. For this next page, I actually have to bust out my pencil, do some math, and yeah, I'm busting out my pencil just because this is a new page for me, and I've currently been on a financial kick and wanting to keep track of everything, so I wanted to make this spread to help me keep track of the expenses and income that I get each month. I'm not doing so hot right now, but I want to hopefully see the improvement throughout the year. I got this from Best Dressed, I believe, in her bullet journal video. I left space at the bottom for a period tracker, but that's also a new spread for me, and I'm not sure how I want to do it. The next spread is actually from a YouTuber that I can't think of at the moment. I watched so many videos. I will find and insert their name at the bottom in the description and have a link to the video as well. And it's basically a glossary of things I did throughout the year. So events, first time doing things, travel, and the trips that I can do if that's possible this year, etc. Like I said, her video will be linked down below, and that's it for the yearly pages. Now I have my monthly spreads, so I'll be setting up January, and I use the classic monthly setup that is in the beginner video. Again, I'll link it down below, I'll link everything. But yeah, it's the bare bones bullet journal setup. So I have the month dates and the day of the week listed vertically. I separate the weeks with a line, and I'll just fill in as I go. You'll see me flipping back to the year at a glance and the future logs, and that's how I keep track of that. And then as things come up during the month, I'll write them here so that I can keep up a little better. To the right, I have a to-do dump. So if I just feel like a long to-do list, if I want to separate them by tasks and by like subjects, so like work, personal, YouTube, etc., that's where I will do it for the month, and each week I'll look back to that page. Next, I have a currently and memories spread. I tend to use these spreads as kind of a scrapbook or a journal, so I keep track of what I'm currently watching, listening, reading, what I'm feeling, consuming, and what I'm stressing over, because I stress out a lot. And then I have a dump page for memories. It's kind of like an in-depth version of the things I did page. I've treated that definitely more like a journal. Next is my money tracker spread. So I have the standard tracker on the right where I just have the date, where I spend my money, and how much. And then I have my budget review on the left. I compare my budget to the actual numbers of what I spend on like static things that are recurring bills, subscriptions, and then the other things that I spend my money on. So gas, groceries, out to eat, personal things, stuff like that. And that's it. That's my yearly and monthly spreads for my bullet journal. From here, I will take my standard weekly spreads, as you can see when I do my flip through, and I just carry on planning and jot down my to-do lists, things I'm trying to keep track of, etc. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you were able to get something from how I set up my spreads. Just know that bullet journals do not have to be works of art. They are your planner, your journal if need be, and they are meant to be utilitarian. So yeah, I will see you next time. Bye.